Picture this. A sterile CNN studio in Atlanta, the kind with harsh fluorescent lights bouncing off glossy desks and oversized screens displaying the day's headlines. Jake Tapper, ever the composed anchor, sits across from Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She's poised, her expression a mix of resolve and subtle fire, the look of someone who's been through the political ringer and come out swinging. The date is November 23rd, 2025, just days after Marjorie Taylor Greene's bombshell announcement that she's resigning from Congress effective January 5, 2026. The official line? Personal reasons and security threats. But Crockett? She's here to blow that story wide open. Let's talk about what just happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Tapper begins, his voice steady but laced with anticipation. She's resigned from Congress, effective immediately after the new year. The statement cites personal reasons and increased security concerns, but you've been vocal about having your own theories. What do you think really happened here? Crockett pauses for a beat, her eyes locking onto the camera as if addressing the nation directly. Then, she leans forward slightly, a subtle move that commands attention. Jake, I want to be very clear about something that I think gets lost in all the noise around MTG's resignation, she says, her Texas drawl adding weight to every word. Marjorie Taylor Greene spent years, building and feeding a hate machine. She amplified conspiracy theories, targeted colleagues across the aisle, ginned up anger and even violence, and made it her entire political brand. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she did it deliberately because it gave her power, attention, and influence in the mega movement. The camera zooms in as her expression intensifies. And then, after 1 week, literally 7 days, of Donald Trump turning that same machine on her, she folded. 1 week. Think about that. I've been dealing with death threats, with racist attacks, with people showing up outside my office making threatening gestures for months, plural months, and I'm still here doing my job. But MTG faced 1 week of Trump criticizing her, and she's out? That tells you this isn't really about security threats or personal safety. This is about something else. Tapper, sensing the dynamite in her words, presses gently but firmly. What do you think that something else is? Crockett's response is measured, pointed, and devastating. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene finally realized that the monster she'd been feeding was going to consume her. And I think, and this is where it gets interesting, I think she saw something coming that she didn't want to be part of. Because here's what doesn't add up. Trump went after Thomas Massie, too. He went after Lauren Boebert. He went after several Republicans who signed on to the petition to release the Epstein files. But they are still in Congress. They are still showing up. They took the heat and kept going. So, why is MTG different? What makes a situation so unique that she had to resign instead of just weathering the storm like her colleagues? The question hangs in the air like a storm cloud, and Tapper lets the silence build before the obvious follow-up. Are you suggesting this has something to do with the Epstein files specifically? Crockett chooses a word with the precision of a surgeon. I'm suggesting that the timing is interesting. MTG was one of the most vocal supporters of releasing those files until suddenly she wasn't. And around the same time she stopped talking about it, leadership started keeping things very tight-lipped about what's actually in those files and what the next phase of the investigation looks like. Democrats on the relevant committees, including people who should have access to this information, are being told there are ongoing developments that can't be discussed yet. That's unusual. That level of secrecy within Congress itself suggests something significant is happening behind the scenes. She pauses, then adds with a knowing edge, and look, I'm not saying I know exactly what's in those files or what MTG saw, but I do know that when someone who's made their entire career on being confrontational and aggressive suddenly resigns after years of promising to fight, something fundamental has changed. You don't just walk away from power unless you're either being forced out or you're trying to get ahead of something that's about to hit. That interview clip exploded online within hours, millions of views on X, TikTok, and YouTube. But it wasn't just viral fodder. It was a spark that ignited a firestorm of investigative journalism. Reporters from Politico, The Hill, and The Washington Post started digging, piecing together timelines and anonymous leaks from Capitol Hill insiders. What emerged was a picture of chaos in the Republican conference, sealed briefings, and a woman who went from Trump's attack dog to a ghost in the machine. Let's break down the backstory to understand why Crockett's words landed like a grenade. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Georgia firebrand known for her QAnon-adjacent rhetoric and unyielding loyalty to Trump, had been a fixture in Congress since 2021. She built her brand on outrage, space lasers, election denialism, and relentless attacks on Democrats. But in late 2025, cracks appeared. Trump, fresh off his re-election, started clashing with her over policy, H-1B visas, foreign aid to Israel, and crucially, the delayed release of Jeffrey Epstein's client list and related files. Epstein, the convicted sex offender who died in 2019 under mysterious circumstances, had long been a lightning rod for conspiracy theories. MTG had championed full transparency, tweeting demand for unredacted documents as recently as early November 2025. The American people deserve to know who was on those flights, she posted, racking up thousands of likes. But by mid-November, her tune changed, or rather, went silent. No more posts, no more interviews on the topic. Then, on November 21st, she announced her resignation, citing threats and a desire to focus on family. Crockett, a rising star in the Democratic Party known for her sharp wit and no-nonsense style, wasn't buying it. As a black woman in Congress, she'd endured far worse, doxing, slurs, armed protesters at events. Yet she persisted. In her view, MTG's quick exit exposed the hypocrisy at the heart of mega politics, performative toughness that crumbles under real pressure. As the clip spread, conservative commentators scrambled. Laura Loomer, a Trump ally, accused MTG of betrayal, while others like Charlie Kirk downplayed the feud. But Crockett's narrative stuck. This wasn't about threats. It was about fear of exposure. Anonymous GOP staffers leaked to the press about tense conference meetings where MTG had argued vehemently for Epstein file releases, only to backpedal after a private briefing. What was in that briefing? Sources hinted at new DOJ developments, potential evidence tampering post-Epstein's death, irregular visitor logs, and names of politically connected figures who'd allegedly pressured for redactions. If part one was a spark, this is a fuel. Let's map out the sequence of events leading to Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation, a timeline that reeks of more than coincidence. We're talking sealed briefings, sudden radio silence, and a fallout with Trump that exposed fissures in the GOP. Based on leaks, reports from outlets like the Washington Post and Politico, and Jasmine Crockett's pointed analysis, here's how it unfolded in late 2025. Start with November 1st, 2025. MTG is at the peak of her Epstein crusade. In a fiery ex-post, she demands, release the Epstein files now. No more delays. America deserves the truth about who protected this monster. The post goes viral, amplified by mega influencers. She's positioning herself as a transparency warrior, aligning with Trump's promises to drain the swamp. November 5th, Election Day fallout. Trump wins re-election, but tensions simmer over cabinet picks and policy. MTG publicly clashes with him on H-1B visas, calling for restrictions to protect American workers. Trump fires back on Truth Social. Some in Congress don't get it. America first means talent too. November 10th, MTG doubles down on Epstein. In an interview with Steve Bannon, she says, the files will expose a deep state. I'm fighting for full release, no redactions. Sources say she's lobbying House Oversight Committee members for a vote. November 15th, the turning point. Anonymous leaks to the Hill describe a classified briefing in a secure Capitol room, SCIF. Attendees, select Republicans, including MTG, briefed by DOJ officials on ongoing Epstein investigations. Details are scarce, but whispers include new evidence of post-death cover-ups, altered logs from Epstein's cell, missing footage from Ghislaine Maxwell's trial prep, and communication showing political interference in file releases. Post-briefing, MTG's demeanor shifts. Staffers tell Politico she emerged pale and quiet, canceling media appearances. No more Epstein tweets. November 18th, Trump escalates. On X, he blasts MTG. Disloyal Republicans like her are why nothing gets done. Epstein files? We'll handle it my way. It's the first direct hit, tying her to the delays she's criticizing. November 20th. Crockett enters a fray indirectly. In a House floor speech, she calls for bipartisan transparency on Epstein, subtly shading GOP infighting. Some demand truth until it's inconvenient, she says. November 21st. MTG's resignation announcement. In a video statement, she cites threats to my family and frustration with GOP gridlock. No mention of Epstein. Effective January 5th, conveniently after vesting for her congressional pension on January 3rd. November 23rd, Crockett's CNN interview drops the bomb. As detailed in Part 1, she connects the dots, MTG's silence post-briefing, the one-week heat from Trump, and the disparity with others like Massey who endured woes. The timeline screams cover-up. Why the abrupt halt on Epstein advocacy? Leaks suggest the briefing revealed expanding probes into facilitators, figures who allegedly helped seal files after Epstein's 2019 suicide. MTG, with her vocal demands, might have been looped in earlier, raising questions about her role. Crockett expanded in a follow-up MSNBC appearance. The timing isn't interesting, it's suspicious. MTG went from screaming for transparency to ghosting the issue after one meeting. What did she see that made power suddenly unappealing? Investigative reports poured in. ProPublica confirmed DOJ's quiet expansion of Epstein reviews, focusing on obstruction. The Washington Post noted congressional briefings sparked urgent legal consultations among attendees. GOP chaos ensued. Speaker Mike Johnson deflected. Personal matter, no comment on briefings. But non-denials fueled speculation. Other Republicans, like Boebert, stayed put despite Trump attacks. Why not MTG? Crockett's theory, preemptive exit. Resigning limits scrutiny. Staying means subpoenas, ethics probes. As a private citizen, she can fade away. Social media erupted. What did MTG trended, with memes juxtaposing her tough talk against her quick quit. Conservative split. Some defended her, others accused betrayal. This timeline isn't just dates, it's a roadmap to panic. In Part 3, we unpack the briefing's alleged contents and why it broke MTG. Subscribe now. The shadows are deepening. Now we enter the heart of the mystery, the late November classified briefing that, according to multiple sources, transformed Marjorie Taylor Greene from a defiant fighter into a woman on the run. Jasmine Crockett's revelations pointed the finger here, and leaks have since painted a chilling picture. This wasn't your standard committee meeting. It was a SCIF session, shrouded in secrecy, where DOJ and FBI officials laid bare developments in the Epstein saga that could rock Washington. From anonymous staffers speaking to the New York Times and CNN, here's what reportedly went down. The briefing, limited to key oversight members, focused on Phase 2 of the Epstein investigation. Phase 1 was the public releases, client lists, flight logs. Phase 2, alleged cover-ups after Epstein's death. Key revelations. Evidence tampering claims. Prosecutors presented logs showing an authorized access to Maxwell's evidence lockers in 2020. Video footage from Epstein's cell was incomplete, with gaps suggesting deletion. Political interference, communications, emails, memos indicated pressure from high-level figures to redact names in 2021 releases. Some tied to congressional offices pushing for national security classifications. Expanding scope. The probe now include henchmen who allegedly visited Maxwell pre-trial, potentially to intimidate or alter testimony. Names weren't dropped, but implications pointed to Trump-era allies. The room's reaction? Shocked silence, per one leaker. MTG, usually vocal, said little. Days later, she lawyered up personal attorneys, not campaign ones. Crockett, in her podcast appearance, connected it. If MTG learned the investigation was eyeing cover-up participants, and if she or her circle had ties, resignation makes sense. You don't stay where you're exposed. Why MTG specifically? Her pre-briefing advocacy might have crossed lines, perhaps informal inquiries that now look like interference. Or she saw names too close to home. Republican fallout was swift. 2 more members announced non-re-election within weeks, citing family. Coincidence? Crockett thinks not. The walls are closing in. Legal analysts agree. Resignation dodges congressional scrutiny. As Crockett said on the House floor, this is a party fracturing over buried truths. In Part 4, the panic spreads, more leaks, defections, and Crockett's unyielding push. Hit like if you're demanding answers. With a briefing exposed, panic rippled through the GOP. Leaks multiplied. Staffers described screaming matches in conference rooms over Epstein petitions. MTG's resignation wasn't isolated. 2 others followed, all brief attendees. Speaker Johnson's deflection, no comment, fueled fire. Crockett's social thread. Why hide what you saw? Who else is next? Media dug deeper. ProPublica on DOJ obstruction probes. Posts on congressional involvement. Crockett reframed. MAJ's loyalty crumbles under truth. Her floor speech. Fracturing over corruption, not policy. Defections hinted at a wave. Crockett. If MTG runs, others will too. In Part 5, the bigger picture, what's coming next? MTG didn't quit over tweets. She quit over what the Epstein probe threatened. Exposure of cover-ups implicating power players. Crockett's analysis, a preview of unraveling lies. Investigations expand. Files unseal. Crockett, powerful people will face consequences. Some. Demand transparency. Share if you agree. The truth is emerging.